Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Agajanian Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled is actor Charles Busch and actor Gregory Messer. Charles Busch is not only an actor, but an author of such plays as Psycho Beach Party, Times Square Angel, and Red Square on Sunset. Not Red Square, Red Scare. He's been in the films The Addams Family, Values, and It Could Happen to You. He's made TV appearances. And most exciting of all, I think, is your Vampire Lesbians of Sodom, which ran 5 years off Broadway. I mean, that's quite something, Charles.
Yeah, and for a while, for a long time, it held the record for being the longest-running non-musical play in off-Broadway history, and it depends on who you know, on technicalities. I think I still may hold that title. I'm holding on to it with, white knuckles, but there's some people who could claim it, but I'm holding on.
Were you in it every night for 5
No,
years?
God, if I was, we'd be shooting this from a loony bin.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I did 2 years in it.
And then how did
we
you
replaced everybody. I wrote the play for a little theater company that I had for a number of years, Theater in Limbo, and we all did that show. And after about 2 years, we all left to do another play, Psycho Beach Party, but we replaced everyone, and it ran another 3 years.
But you wrote Psycho Beach Party too.
I write them all.
So you wrote parts in these for yourself, obviously,
for
and your
myself
friends.
and my friends. Yes, one of my great achievements, I feel, is that I kept my best friends all employed for about 8 years.
Long time.
And I got them all their insurance paid for about 8 years.
That's really great.
Yeah.
When you graduated from Northwestern University, did you expect a career like this?
You know, it actually started happening that way at Northwestern. I always wanted to be in the theater, just ever since I can remember, wanted to act.
Did you take acting there? Were you
yes,
in
I was a
theater arts
major
there?
Yeah, and but when I got to Northwestern, I clued in pretty quickly that the theater department of a large university is kind of a microcosm of showbiz in a way, and I wasn't being cast in these sort of young juvenile roles, and I started thinking, I thought, he could play that part better than I could, or just as well, and I thought I want to do something where I can be unique and special, and there must be a way of expressing myself and giving something to an audience that's very particular to me. So I began writing my own material and creating roles for myself.
And then you created the role where you would dress up.
Yeah,
or were you creating other roles at that time?
Well, the first thing I did, for the first kind of 6 years or so of my career after college, I was a solo performer. And I did a one-man show and did all sorts of different pieces.
Did you do change
of
costumes?
I'd be dressed basically as I'm dressed right now, and I would play men, women, anything to keep my narrative going, my story, because it was like storytelling, and but all through character. But I found that the female characters somehow are the ones I did the best, and I didn't really want to play the old Irish fisherman too much. And eventually I had a theater company, and I could get all the boys to play all the parts I didn't want to play, and just play the one leading lady. And
and
somehow, it's a mysterious thing. I think maybe you can identify with this. When you clue on to the thing you do best, it all seems to make sense. And somehow, oddly enough, playing this female part, being the leading lady of this theater company, seemed to be the best way to express myself.
But the thing is, you must have started feeling the audience respond to you so quickly that you felt a comfort zone there.
There was an immediacy. As soon as I started actually looking like the character, as well as playing it, I could feel the energy in the audience, and that I was in the right place.
I'm going to hold this up. This is a picture of you dressed up.
All right.
And You look fabulous, don't you? Do you do your own
And
makeup?
Not a bit of retouching on the photo.
Not a bit of retouching. I think you did your own retouching.
Well, I found this wonderful retoucher in New York recently who's just as nutty as I am, and it was like a contest. Well, kind of like, well, maybe we can take out this, and maybe we could add that in and change that. So it's almost a drawing at this point. But
like the 40s, I was talking to some of the photographers in the 40s, and they always painted eyelashes on their major stars.
And sometimes you see a photo of Mae West, and they just cut out her entire waistline. just
even at that time, now we do it on the computer, but they actually had to do it on their negatives and on their pictures.
I find photo retouching so fascinating anyway, because it's kind of like editing a human being. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Well, you actually do the same thing. You use your face as a palette and your body as part of the canvas. You've written so many things. Do you write with other people, or do you write alone?
No, I'm the cat that walks alone.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, no, I write them all, and I work closely with the director, who I always depend on as an editor. And then for the most of my career, I've worked with a fellow named Ken Elliott, who is directing the play I'm doing out here right now, Die Mommy Die. Although since he's moved to L.A. and I live in New York City, I've worked recently with a very talented young fellow named Carl Andrus, who directed my last two plays in New York. But I have long-term collaborations. I love when you work with somebody who you trust and are so in sync with. It's a pleasure.
I think that takes me to the next question, because I was wondering how, writing all of your work, you can really trust a director to get it across the way you have it in your mind.
Well, it's a tricky thing, because until I found Ken years ago, and we worked since '82 together. But I've had, and actually I've done things apart from him, and I've had experiences where a director can lead you down a different path. I'm very collaborative, and listen, I can be easily swayed too. So sometimes I've seen things distorted because we went in a different direction. But I have to say, at the time I thought, okay, let's do it. And then after the fact, think, gee, maybe it was my original idea might have been a little more successful. But, whatever.
You have to try it.
You try it, and it was an interesting experience.
Has Die Mommy Die, I was telling you earlier before we started the show that I walked by the theater and everyone comes out with these big grins on their face.
Yeah,
and
I
think it's so campy. Even when I was sitting there, I think it seems like it's directed to be extra campy. Bigger than life.
It's bigger than life. Well, the play is I wanted to play a great classical role, so I thought I'll play Clytemnestra, the ancient Greek queen, and but then I thought those costumes would be a little too kind of drab, so we decided to update it to 1967, and then it turned into a Joan Crawford, Bette Davis horror movie like Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte or Dead Ringer.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Little elements of all those movies.
What other stars do you impersonate? Because you do great impersonations.
Well, what I try to do is, I'm kind of, when I play the leading lady of one of these plays, it's a little bit like of a human montage. I mean, I try to make the character very true to who that person is, but sometimes I kind of slip in I evoke a little bit of Bette Davis here, or a little bit of Susan Hayward, or Vivian Lee, or
and that's how your audience responds.
Yeah.
They know exactly what you're doing, right?
They seem to, although sometimes I think, oddly enough, that they just have a sense that they know that kind of actress, that kind of lady, and that's enough.
And that's what takes them?
They don't, yeah, because I found in shows I've done where the original source material was so, that we're spoofing was so obscure. I did a play last winter in New York called Shanghai Moon, and it was kind of a 1931 Oriental melodrama, and the movies from the early 30s that we were parodying were so obscure that I'm sure 98% of that audience had never heard of them, or the actresses that I was emulating. But I think if you're true to it and so specific, they just somehow sense that you're doing it right, that there's a point of view.
I notice when you sit in the audience, you can really tell what's going on. I don't know if it comes across on stage, but it became one person trying to outlaugh the other at what you were doing, like they wanted to be in on your secret.
The audience?
Yeah. Each person in the audience wanted to be in more than the next person sitting
the audience
next
has
to
been,
them.
really, it's
How do you read
lovely.
your
Well, it's a very
audiences?
interesting thing. I've been doing this for a long time now. I'm longer than I like to say, and one thing I've learned to do, and I've been rather proud of actually after all these years, is to gauge an audience.
Right.
And I used to many years ago I would find that if because an audience a personality of an audience changes every night, and
That's what I mean.
and you may have an audience that isn't so. I mean, some nights it's like the rodeo, and it's like but other nights it is a little quieter, and not necessarily a bad audience, but they're listening to the play in a slightly different way. And I used to, just the audience is quiet, do more,
That's what I mean. Do you try to do
no,
more?
No, and I learned a hard lesson to do less, and that if an audience sometimes might be a little freaked out even at first, it's guy in drag or what is this? I don't know these old movies. I was brought in here by my friend, and,
Right.
and I find if I bring it down a little bit, a little more human, a little more natural, they get into it more, and I shift the performance a little bit sometimes. It's a subtle thing, but
I wondered if you did
yeah,
that.
and I can enjoy the play in a different way. Sometimes, if it's a really raucous audience, we're all in this kind of mutual kind of hysteria, but even there I have to kind of keep
it down?
keep a rein on it, because they can get carried away and wreck up things. But a quieter audience, I can enjoy for just kind of getting into the more subtle moments of the play.
Do you feel more dramatic if it's a
Sometimes
quieter?
I get a little more dramatic. I feel like because my plays are all sort of comic melodramas, and there's always there are a lot of places where I change tone quite a bit, where it gets rather quiet, and I like in my kind of parody. Parody can be so many different ways. There's like Mel Brooks. There's like Airplane, the movie.
Right.
But my particular sense of humor is I like when it's so close to the source material that it almost seems just like the movie, but then slightly askew.
Then you can do something that's just a little off.
So I enjoy the moments that are actually kind of subtle.
I think some of the subtle writing, I mean, you said it doesn't sound very funny when you read it out of context, like you've slipped into my life like an olive in a dry martini.
Right, actually, the quote, my dear,
Yes.
the quote is...
Tell us what it is.
I'm talking to my gigolo, Tony Parker. I say, as you've slipped into my life as easily as vermouth into a glass of gin,
Oh, is it?
quickly and just a bit too smooth.
I thought that was great, and then everyone just cracks up. And another thing
I
you
never
said,
quite know why, but I think they recognize it's sort of accurate to the genre or how I'm doing
right?
it.
And here, I'll read it. You're a liar, a thief, and a drunk. Doesn't sound very funny, does it?
No, but I sort of do a little Susan Hayward there. You're a liar, a cheat, and a drunk.
A drunk. When you do the drunk, it gets him.
And the funny thing is that you're never in rehearsal. Most of the times I don't think it's particularly amusing, but I kind of put it in for my own amusement and thrilled that the audience seems to share my sense of humor.
Do you think that you'll switch over to straight roles as your career changes or goes further?
I did a play a couple years ago. I wrote a play called You Should Be So Lucky, and I played the male lead, and went quite well. But once again, I felt somebody else could play that part just as well. And
Oh, I see.
so
I see what you're saying now. I
the
see.
young men could play the part. I think I'd rather just. I've been doing this, playing drag roles for so long now, and I'm kind of at a good place now. I'm finding. There was a point actually, but it's funny that you should ask that, because there was a point just a few years ago where I was feeling a little trapped into it, and like it was sort of a tight box that I was in, and then a couple of times I had tried different experiments, playing different kinds of roles, and sometimes the critics didn't care for it, and I was feeling very frustrated. But now I'm finding that there's actually a lot of room in that box. There's a lot of air in it. And,
I see.
And I'm feeling good about it.
I can see that, and I understand it, and I think then you'll be the best person in that box.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I think is great. And you were one of the best people I've had on my box in my show. Thanks a lot,
It's been a
Charles
pleasure.
Busch, for being here. And don't go away. We'll be back with Greg Messer. Hi, we're back, and I'm Joan Quinn. Gregory Messer was born in New York, but grew up in Los Angeles. He's a Valley guy. Greg graduated from El Camino High School in Woodland Hills and then majored in theater arts at UC Irvine. What were your intentions of a career, Greg, from UC Irvine?
I really wanted to act ever since I was a little kid, and went to UCI to study my craft and study acting, study directing for theater, which I loved, and then I wanted to move on from there to have a career in the theater.
Did you take singing lessons, dance?
Mostly acting.
Mostly acting, because you did a part in Bye Bye Birdie.
Yeah.
Did you sing?
Yeah, I did. But I still always consider myself an actor-singer. I'm an actor who can do some singing roles.
And then what about also Joseph and the Amazing
Technicolor Dreamcoat?
Dreamcoat.
I was Benjamin in that, but my solo parts were I was mostly Benjamin's the youngest brother, so he kind of gets spotlighted during the Benjamin Calypso number towards the end.
So you don't sing very much?
I sang chorus.
Oh, you sang chorus. But so you didn't train for music?
I did, but I don't really, like I said, I consider myself an actor-singer. My acting is first, and then the singing comes along with it.
But you're acting now, one of the reasons we're talking to you besides your acting career is because you are starring in Miss Desmond Behind Bars, which is a big parody on what I think... Miss Desmond, where was
Sunset
she?
Boulevard.
Where was Miss Desmond? Miss Desmond was at Sunset Boulevard, and then it was Thing Behind Bars.
Women Behind Bars, and then the whole Hollywood musical thing, and how with all of that stuff.
Please.
Yeah.
So you've got all these things going, and that's why we're talking to you. But you sing in Miss Desmond.
I do sing in Miss Desmond, and fortunately, Leo Savalas, who wrote our score, wrote it for me. I mean, my songs were written for me.
For your range?
For my range, for what my voice could do, what it couldn't do. You know, if I said, God, Leo, I'm not comfortable going here, we would meet halfway, and I would push myself farther than I thought I could go, and he would pull it back a little bit farther, so it would be comfortable for me.
He is a fabulous musical director. I've spoken to him.
He's incredible. He's incredible, and he blows me away every night with what he does.
And that's what I think. You're on stage, and he's behind stage directing you and playing every instrument. I mean, I don't know how he does it.
I've been working with Leo with this show for a year and a half, something like that, and I feel really in tune with where he's going. So even though I don't see him, I know where we're at.
Is that? And he said he can just feel the pulse of what's going on stage. Either he can make it go faster or slower, but he's working right with you.
It's a trust thing, but we
trust
trust each other implicitly, and he's a genius, so I have no problems working with in that way.
I want to talk about Miss Desmond Behind Bars, Sunset Boulevard and Women Behind Bars, so that I can say the right thing this time. But we have a little clip of what you actually look like, because you're on stage the whole time, aren't just about?
Pretty much. I'm on stage a lot. Yeah, but this clip is actually a silent movie that we filmed for sort of an epilogue. What happens to the characters after
they get out of jail? After she gets out of jail?
And Norma actually gets to make her brilliant return to the screen in Salome, which is her pet project. And
I see.
This is sort of me on the Salome set.
Okay, we'll see that. Cut. The director saves it.
Right. We're filming the scene with the John the Baptist head, and it's just atrocious. And so I start having a hissy fit on stage, and the producer comes in.
So it was a silent movie, obviously.
Yes, it's that, and Leo accompanies it with that sort of classic silent movie piano sound.
I see. Which we didn't have today,
Which we didn't have, unfortunately, because he does it live.
Sunset Boulevard is opening with Petula Clark, or Petula Clark is playing Miss Desmond in Do you look like this?
No, I don't look like that at all. My Norma's much more haggard than Miss Clark looks. She looks fabulous there.
And what, you make her haggard? Because your face is just as nice as this face.
Well, I kind of based my makeup on a woman that I used to see in Beverly Hills who was probably 75 and circled her eyes with lots of black, and her face was almost white, and she looks like a silent movie star, and I really wanted that kind of a look for Norma, sort of a Theta Bara, and like this woman.
So you got it. Now tell me, Mark Goff wrote with Leo Savalas. Mark Goff has about 100 different important roles in this Miss Desmond Behind Bars. Tell us what he did.
Well, there was a group of us that originally sat down to collaborate on the script, and we did a number of rewrites as a group. And then ultimately Mark took over the writing of the script in the final 5 drafts or whatever it was up until this point. He's written solo.
Was he a writer before?
No,
Oh,
actually, never did it before, but Mark loves climbing over obstacles. That's what he does best. So, and I've never written, nor have I written lyrics before.
But he wrote the lyrics, he did some of the staging, he helped with the costuming.
And is executive producer of the show.
And is executive producing. Tell us a little bit about the costumes, because here you are, it takes place in a jail.
Right. The costumes are absurd. There's
I'm going to show just the stripes.
Right,
so
all of the prisoners are in prison stripes, but all of us have, they're tailored to our individual characters. I'm sort of in a prison striped evening gown. That's me up in front, and then Crystal Bell, our Southern Belle, has big crinolines under her skirt, and Maria, who's our little Spitfire, has a short skirt, so they're all variations there.
But all with stripes.
Always stripes. Always
that
stripes.
was very good. One of the things toward the end, I guess, you sing a duet, Moving Pictures?
Yeah, it's me and all the prisoners, and I'm teaching them how to make movies.
It's incredible. I mean, your voice is so strong, and the harmony is so wonderful.
I have the pleasure of working with a group of talented people every single night in the show, and we have a ball doing that number. It's sort of our Sondheim tribute kind of feeling of intertwining pieces all kind of working together.
There's so many different types of music, so you have to really move with each type. I mean, there's calypso and ballad and, I don't know, show tunes.
Right. I have 2 heavy ballads. I mean, two big ballads I do by myself, and then I do sort of a Latin American kind of samba number, and then the Sondheim making movies.
What
number.
about dancing? Did you take dance classes? What do you have to do to get ready then? You know, I was a very good friend of Divine, who would do his own. I mean, he had someone doing his makeup, but he could sing, act, and dance, and he never took a class of anything, nor did he go to college. So
I did for playing Miss Desmond. I just did a lot of reading about silent movie stars and silent movies and what that time was like. Watched a lot of silent movies.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and really read up and watched up, and then I kind of started thinking about Norma as this great actress, and she sort of acts her way through life. and everything is a different level of acting for her, getting the results that she wanted. So kind of just took her from there.
That's how you got ready?
Yeah, I mean, Swanson on Swanson, which is Gloria Swanson's autobiography, was probably the most brilliant resource for me.
The stage is practically in the first row of the audience. Do you get nervous that the people are so close to you?
I don't even see them.
Yes.
I don't see them at all. I love having them close because you can feel them there, but I don't see them at all.
What about if there's a major star in the audience? Do you know about it before you come out on stage?
There's a couple of people who've come to see the show, and I know about it, and I don't even think about it.
You don't play to them? You don't see?
No, I don't see them at all. It's too distracting for me. She's so high intensity. Norma's so on.
You're like.
So I try not to see them at all.
How long does it take to do your makeup at night?
It takes about an hour for me to do my face, and then about another half hour to get dressed and do final touches.
Can you see yourself doing anything else other than a drag role?
Yeah, I can. Once this process is over, once Miss Desmond, wherever it goes, is sort of over, I really want to sit down and start writing some stuff on my own sort of musings, and kind of see where they go from there. Because I would love to do that.
Do you think you'd be in musicals? I mean, would that be something? Do you have aspirations to go to New York, Broadway, off-Broadway?
I hope to see that Miss Esmond travels, but honestly, if it doesn't, or when I'd like to do, more non-musical parts.
Would you?
Yeah, absolutely.
But in what vein?
I'd like to write like monologue pieces, storytelling.
I see.
About myself, or about maybe explorations of what I'm doing. I don't know. I'm not really sure where.
Where do you hang out?
Where do we hang out? Gosh, after theater, we head down the street to a little restaurant and have a bite and a martini and.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because when you talk about writing for yourself, usually writers are in certain places a lot of the time, and collecting facts.
I've had ideas in the back of my head for a long time, and now that I'm sort of in the creative process, I think it'll be really easy for me to sit down and start going off from there. I've always been fascinated with Ganymede, the myth of Ganymede, and that's always something that's been in the back of my mind.
How would you explain it?
The story of Ganymede? Ganymede is sort of a beautiful youth who is abducted by Zeus, and Zeus comes down in the form of a giant hawk.
But would it be today, or would it be?
I think it would be today. I think it would be
a fable.
Yeah, it would be very fable and very much a story of men in a big city kind of feeling. But I see it as a performance piece, and that's something that's always been in the back of my head. The other thing is, young people don't really get into the musical theater thing anymore, and something about being the last of the musical theater queens or so. It's another idea that sort of is evolving in the back of my head, and I want to sit down and actually start working with those ideas.
Well, we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
We are so happy that you were with us today, and you are in command of the stage when you're on the stage. And thanks very much, Greg Messer, for being with us.
Thank you, John.
And keep writing. We'll answer all your questions. Anything you want to know about Greg, we'll tell you. 777 South Figueroa, 40th floor, Los Angeles, 917. And we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.